The cafe smelled like burnt sugar and expensive cologne, two worlds sharing the same air but never speaking. Alaric Voss sat at his usual corner table, back straight, suit flawless, watch face catching the morning light like it was hungry for attention. Outside, Argent Bay moved in clean lines, glass towers, polished cars, people walking fast so they didn't have to look down. He didn't come here for coffee. He came for control. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe. More powerful stories about hidden truth, second chances, and quiet justice are coming. Your support keeps these stories alive. The barista behind the counter, Jules, name stitched on his apron, worked with exaggerated calm. Steam hissed. Cups clinked. A woman laughed too loud near the window. Alaric didn't even blink. His phone vibrated. A reminder. Council vote, 4 p.m. Vosque redevelopment. Years of planning rested on that vote. One signature, one public smile, one more clean victory. Jules approached with a porcelain cup on a saucer, crema smooth as satin. He placed it gently in front of Alaric, eyes down, hands steady. "Enjoy, sir." Alaric lifted the cup. And in that exact moment, a shadow moved too fast for polite society. A boy, barely 12, thin as wire, hair a mess of dark curls, hoodie too big, darted between tables like he'd rehearsed it. His eyes were bright and wild, not with madness but with urgency. His hands shot out. The cup tipped. Coffee poured across the table, splashed onto the floor, and ran like a brown river toward Alaric's polished shoes. Gasps erupted. Chairs scraped. Someone shouted, "Hey!" Alaric stood so quickly his chair nearly toppled. For a single second, his face showed something raw, anger born from being touched by chaos. What the hell? The boy didn't run. He froze, chest heaving, eyes locked on Alaric's cup as if it were a bomb with a ticking clock. Then his gaze flicked up to Alaric's face and cracked with desperation. "I'm sorry," the boy said, words tumbling out like stones. "I had to." Alaric's security detail, two men in clean black jackets, moved in immediately. One grabbed the boy's arm. The other positioned himself between Alaric and the room as if the kid was carrying a weapon. "Get him out," Alaric snapped, voice sharp enough to cut. The boy twisted in the guard's grip, not to escape, just to point at the spreading coffee like proof of something. "Don't drink it," he blurted. "Don't, please, don't." "Shut up," the guard hissed. But the boy kept talking, voice rising. "Something's wrong with it. I saw." Alaric stepped forward, eyes cold, and the room quieted like it knew authority when it heard it. "You saw what?" Alaric asked, not because he cared, because he wanted to crush the boy's nerve with a question. The boy's mouth opened, closed. His eyes darted to the counter. Jules stood stiff, face pale, one hand clenched around a dish towel. The boy swallowed hard. "I saw him put something in it." Jules flinched so subtly most people wouldn't notice. Alaric noticed everything. He turned his gaze to the barista. "Is that true?" Jules forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir, that's ridiculous. He's homeless. He's trying to cause trouble. Please, I'll make you a fresh one." The manager rushed out, apologizing, offering wipes, offering refunds, offering anything to return the cafe to its soft, profitable peace. Alaric looked down at the coffee pooling near his shoes. Anger still burned in him, but behind it was an unfamiliar itch. The boy's plea hadn't sounded like a scam. It sounded like terror. Alaric's security dragged the boy toward the door. The kid fought like his life depended on it, not with fists, but with words. "Please," he shouted over the chaos. "You don't understand. He's doing it because of the vote. Because of Vosque." That made Alaric pause. Not the coffee. Not the mess. The project name. He raised a hand. His security stopped. The boy's chest rose and fell like a trapped animal's. Alaric stepped closer until they were only a foot apart. Up close, the kid's face was smudged with grime, but his eyes were clear, too clear. The kind of eyes that watched everything because the world had taught them it was dangerous not to. "What's your name?" Alaric asked. The boy hesitated. "Milo." Alaric studied him like a contract clause. "And you're telling me you know about a city council vote?" "I watch," Milo said. "I listen. People talk loud when they think you're invisible." A murmur spread through the cafe. Phones lifted. Someone whispered, "Is he serious?" Alaric didn't like being watched. But he liked mysteries even less. He turned to his head of security, a broad man named Carden. "Take him outside. Don't hurt him." Carden blinked, surprised by the restraint, then nodded. Alaric faced the manager. "Preserve the security footage." "No." The manager stammered. "Of course, sir. Absolutely." Jules' face tightened. Alaric's eyes slid to him. "And you," he said softly. "Stay where you are." Jules' hand trembled, just once. Alaric didn't accuse. He didn't shout. He simply watched, and the watching did what shouting could not. It made guilty people feel exposed. Minutes later, the cafe's owner ushered Alaric into the back office, sweating and smiling at the same time. A monitor displayed a paused camera feed. Alaric leaned in. "Play it," he said. The footage rolled back. Counterview, timestamp, Jules preparing the cup. Everything looked ordinary until a man approached the counter, partially obscured by a pastry display. He wore a slate-gray coat and a cap pulled low. He slid something small across the counter. Jules' body language changed instantly. He glanced around, then pocketed the object with the speed of someone hiding shame. The man leaned in as if whispering. Jules nodded. Then, barely visible, Jules turned his back to the camera, and his hand moved in a quick, practiced motion toward Alaric's cup. A tiny tilt. A tiny drop. Alaric's jaw tightened. The owner swallowed. "Sir, maybe it's sugar." Alaric rewound, watched again. And again. He didn't have proof of poison yet, but he had proof of intention. He stood. "Who is that man?" The owner shook his head frantically. "I don't know. I swear." Alaric's phone buzzed again. Another reminder. Another pressure. Outside, Argent Bay glittered like it had no idea how close darkness had come. Alaric walked back into the cafe. Jules stood behind the counter, hands clenched, eyes fixed on the register like it could save him. Alaric didn't shout. He simply said, "Carden, call our lab. Have them test the coffee. Immediately." Jules' face drained of color. Milo, still held by security near the door, watched Alaric with wary hope. Alaric stepped toward the boy, lowering his voice. "If you're lying," Alaric said, "you've just ruined your life." Milo's throat bobbed. "If I'm telling the truth," he whispered back, "I just saved yours." For the first time in years, Alaric Voss felt the ground under him shift, not with fear, but with the recognition that control was an illusion. And someone had just tried to prove it to him in a cup of coffee. The lab result came back within the hour. Alaric read it twice, then a third time, as if staring hard enough could make the words change. Toxic contaminant detected. Lethal dose range. His office, usually a cathedral of calm, dark wood, clean glass, silence that cost money, felt smaller now. The city outside his floor-to-ceiling windows looked the same, but it had become hostile in his mind. Every handshake, every smile, every deal now had a shadow behind it. Carden stood rigid near the door. "We've pulled the cafe staff records. Jules Marlowe has debt. A lot of it. Gambling, mostly." Alaric's fingers tightened around the paper. "And the man in the footage." Carden hesitated. "We ran facial recognition through public databases. It's not conclusive, but—" "Say it." Carden exhaled. "It resembles Silas Thorne." The name hit like a punch. Silas Thorne, real estate rival, political manipulator, a man who loved winning more than building. If Alaric was a knife, clean, sharp, efficient, Silas was poison, slow and smiling. Alaric stared at the skyline and imagined the council vote at 4 o'clock. If the poison had worked, he would have collapsed. Hospitalized. Out of the way. The vote delayed. The public narrative rewritten. The project stalled long enough for Silas to make his move. Alaric's throat tightened, not from fear, but from fury. Then he remembered Milo's eyes. The boy hadn't spilled coffee for attention. He'd done it like a soldier throwing himself on a grenade. "Where is the boy?" Alaric asked. Carden's expression turned awkward. "We brought him to the lobby, but he ran. Slipped out when the cameras were down for maintenance." Alaric's jaw flexed. "Find him." Carden nodded. "We're trying." "No," Alaric said, voice flat. "Not trying. Find him." 2 hours later, Alaric sat in the back of a black SUV, heading toward a part of Argent Bay he had never visited. The roads narrowed. The buildings lowered. Glitter turned to grime. The city's polished mask peeled away. Carden pointed ahead. Railyard Flats. It wasn't a neighborhood. It was an apology the city never made. Tents stitched from tarps. Pallets stacked as walls. Smoke rising from barrel fires. People moving carefully, like they'd learned the world could strike at any time. Alaric stepped out, and heads turned immediately. A billionaire in a suit didn't belong here. He could feel eyes measuring him, some curious, some resentful, some hungry. He didn't blame them. Carden motioned to his team. They spread out. A woman approached Alaric, older, face-lined, wearing a coat 2 sizes too big. "You lost?" she asked, voice hard. "I'm looking for a boy," Alaric replied. "About 12. Dark hair. Calls himself Milo." Her eyes narrowed. "Kids don't need your kind." Alaric took a breath. "He saved my life." That made her pause, just enough for Alaric to see the flicker of doubt. She jerked her chin toward a cluster of tents near the old rail tracks. "If he's anywhere, he's near the water tower." Alaric walked, stepping over broken glass and puddles, the smell of damp cardboard and smoke sticking to his suit. Near a rusted water tower, he saw a movement, small, quick. "Milo," he called, keeping his voice calm. The boy appeared from behind a stack of crates, eyes sharp, body tense like a drawn bow. He held a piece of metal pipe like a weapon. "I didn't take anything," Milo said immediately. "I didn't steal your watch or whatever." Alaric lifted both hands slowly. "I know." Milo blinked, suspicious. "Then why are you here?" Alaric stepped closer, ignoring the way his security tensed behind him. "Because someone tried to kill me. You stopped it." Milo's grip on the pipe didn't loosen. "So you came to arrest me?" "No." Milo's face tightened. "Then you came to pay me?" Alaric looked at him for a long moment. "No." Milo's eyes narrowed. "Then you came because you feel guilty." The words landed too accurately. Alaric exhaled. "I came because you deserve to know what you did mattered." Milo's pipe lowered by half an inch. Alaric continued. "The coffee was poisoned." "You were right." Milo's face didn't show triumph. It showed relief so deep it looked like exhaustion. "I knew," Milo whispered. "I saw the vial. I saw him hand it over." Jules looked scared. "How long have you been watching that cafe?" Alaric asked. Milo hesitated, then shrugged. "Weeks." "Why?" Milo's eyes flicked toward the water tower, toward the cracked pipes and stained runoff nearby. "Because people like you go there," he said quietly. "And people like me don't survive if we don't notice things." Alaric swallowed. "Where's your family?" Milo's mouth tightened. "My mom's gone." A silence fell between them. "How?" Alaric asked, softer now. Milo looked away. "Water," he said. "Bad water. She got sick. No doctor came. No one cared. I watched her fade, and I couldn't stop it." Alaric felt something twist in his chest, an emotion he didn't have a business term for. Milo's voice grew sharper, like he needed anger to keep from breaking. "So I watch now. Because if I'd watched sooner, maybe I would have seen it coming. Maybe I would have stopped it. Maybe. He stopped. His breathing hitched. Alaric stepped closer. You saved me, he said. You couldn't save her. But you saved me. Milo's eyes shone, and he blinked fast as if refusing to cry in front of a rich man. And now what? Milo asked, voice small again. You go back to your towers, and I go back to my tent. Alaric's phone buzzed. The council vote was in less than an hour. He looked at the settlement, at the kids with hollow cheeks, at the woman stirring a pot over a fire, at the old man limping with a broken shoe. This was Argent Bay too. The city he was building. Alaric turned back to Milo. Come with me. Milo flinched. No. Not as a charity case, Alaric said quickly. As someone who has a skill. You see things. You read people. You noticed what my security didn't. Milo's gaze stayed guarded. You want to use me. Alaric didn't deny it. I want to offer you a life where your skill keeps you safe instead of hunted. Milo's jaw tightened. And the people here? Alaric paused. Milo took a step forward, voice gaining strength. I'll go, only if you help them too. Not just me. Them. Alaric stared at the boy. Not a beggar. Not a victim. A negotiator. He thought of the poisoned coffee. Of the rival who would happily sacrifice a child to kill a billionaire. Of the world Milo had survived. Alaric nodded once. Deal. Milo looked at him like he didn't believe adults kept promises. Alaric added, There's an empty building on West Row. I own it. It's been sitting vacant because it wasn't profitable enough to bother with. That ends today. Carden's head snapped up, surprised. Alaric kept his eyes on Milo. We'll convert it into transitional housing. Beds. Food. Clean water. Security. Case workers. Milo's lips parted slightly. You can do that. Alaric's voice was quiet, almost ashamed. I've always been able to. Milo lowered the pipe fully. For the first time, he looked like a kid, not just a survivor. Alaric's phone buzzed again. The vote was calling him back to the world that tried to kill him. But as he looked at Milo, Alaric realized something. His old life had been about building towers. This moment was about building a reason. The city council chamber smelled like perfume and old paper. Alaric walked in with his usual precision, but something had changed. It wasn't visible in his suit or his posture. It was in his eyes. Milo sat in a nearby hallway under Carden's watch, wearing a borrowed jacket, hands tucked into his sleeves like he didn't trust warmth yet. He watched every passing face, cataloging every twitch and glance. You okay? Carden asked him. Milo didn't look away from a councilman shaking hands too eagerly with a man in a gray coat. That guy's nervous, Milo murmured. Carden's eyes sharpened. Which guy? Milo nodded subtly. Gray coat. Keeps touching his left pocket. Like he's checking something. Carden spoke into his earpiece. Eyes on gray coat. Now. Inside the chamber, Silas Thorne sat 2 rows back, relaxed, smiling, wearing the confidence of a man who believed the poison should have done its job. When Alaric entered, Silas's smile faltered, just a fraction. Alaric sat at the front, ready to present. The council chair began the session. Then the unexpected happened. A security officer leaned toward the chair and whispered urgently. The chair's face tightened. Murmurs spread like wind through dry grass. Carden appeared at the chamber doors, face controlled but intense. He caught Alaric's eye and nodded once. They had him. In the hallway, officers detained the man in the gray coat, vial in pocket, burner phone in hand. Not enough to convict Silas on its own, but enough to crack the facade. Alaric rose when it was his turn to speak. He didn't mention the poison at first. He spoke about Vasquez, jobs, renewal, infrastructure. The room listened, as it always did. Then he stopped, and silence sharpened. Before we vote, Alaric said, voice clear, I need to disclose an attempted act of sabotage against me this morning. Gasps. Heads turned. Silas's eyes narrowed. Alaric continued calmly. A contaminated substance was introduced into my coffee by an employee acting under coercion. We have security footage. We have lab confirmation of a lethal contaminant. The chamber erupted in whispers. Silas lifted his hand, voice smooth. Alaric, this is outrageous. Are you claiming? Alaric turned his head slowly, looking directly at Silas. I'm claiming someone wanted me out of this room today. Silas's smile returned, thin and sharp. And you believe that someone is me? Alaric didn't bite. I believe the investigation will reveal the truth. He paused, then added the part no one expected. And I also want the record to show that the person who prevented this wasn't my security team. It wasn't my lawyers. It wasn't my influence. He inhaled. It was a child. The room quieted, confusion replacing suspicion. Alaric looked at the council members, people who had smiled at him for years while stepping around the poor outside their windows. This city has children living beside poisoned water, he said. Children who survive only by watching for danger because no one protects them. That reality is not separate from our projects. It is part of the city we're building. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. Silas scoffed softly, but his eyes flickered, like he understood the narrative had slipped beyond his control. Alaric concluded with something that sounded less like a pitch and more like a vow. If Vasque is approved, I will fund transitional housing through the conversion of my vacant property on West Row. I will provide clean water filtration for rail yard flats while the city addresses its infrastructure failures. And I will establish a community oversight board that includes people from those neighborhoods, so development doesn't just happen to them. It happens with them. The chair blinked. Mr. Voss, are you making this commitment publicly? Alaric nodded. Yes. Silas Thorne leaned back, expression tightening. He hadn't planned for morality. He'd planned for greed. The council vote proceeded. One by one, hands lifted. The project passed. But the victory didn't feel like the old victories. Alaric left the chamber and found Milo in the hallway. The boy stood instantly, alert as always. Milo searched Alaric's face. Did it work? Alaric nodded. The vote passed. Milo exhaled, then frowned. And the bad guy? Carden stepped forward. We have a runner. We have evidence. It'll take time, but we started the fire. Milo's eyes narrowed. He'll come back. Alaric didn't deny it. Maybe. Milo studied him, suspicious again. So you're still in danger? Yes. Milo's voice dropped. Then why did you say all that stuff in there? About us. Alaric looked at the boy carefully. Because it's true, he said. And because if I only save myself, then the poison wins anyway. Milo didn't understand the metaphor fully, but he felt the weight of it. They walked out together into the late afternoon. Argent Bay's sun bounced off skyscrapers like gold coins. Cars streamed by. People hurried with their bags and coffees, protected by the illusion that no one was trying to poison their day. Alaric stopped outside the building that would become the shelter, an old brick structure with boarded windows and a faded sign. He turned to Milo. This is where we start. Milo stared up at it, skepticism fighting hope. You promised, Milo said quietly. Alaric's voice was firm. And I'll keep it. In the weeks that followed, the building changed. Boards came down. Lights came on. Clean water ran for the first time like it belonged to everyone. Milo moved into a small room with a real bed and a door that locked. The first night, he slept 2 hours, then woke up and listened for danger, because safety felt unfamiliar. Alaric visited the shelter in the evenings, not for cameras, not for headlines. He listened. He learned names. He watched children eat without fear. Silas Thorne, meanwhile, fought back in boardrooms and back channels. Rumors spread. Threats came in coded messages. Business partners grew cautious. The war didn't end, it shifted. One night, Milo stood beside Alaric on the shelter's rooftop, the city sprawling around them like a glittering machine. Do you regret it? Milo asked, eyes on the skyline. Alaric thought of the coffee spilling like a warning. Of the boy's voice, I had to. He shook his head. No. Milo nodded slowly, still learning to trust. Good, he said. Because I'm watching now. Alaric glanced at him. Watching what? Milo's eyes stayed on the city. Everything. Alaric smiled. Not big, not exaggerated. Just enough. Because for the first time, he understood the real power wasn't in towers or votes. It was in paying attention. And in choosing, when the moment came, to do the right thing, fast.